my laptop today.
Oh, you're good. I want to make sure that my audio is right. Sometimes it defaults. Okay, yeah, no, I'm on my mic. Sometimes my mic is on my headphones and it doesn't come across as well. So we're good.
Awesome. We already got some people in here on the StreamYard side. Welcome, everyone. We're going to green screen for about the next 2 minutes or so. We'll trickle in over on the socials. Andy, how's life in Arkansas, right?
Yes, yes. Life in Arkansas has been dicey
Let's say
lately,
Alabama.
man.
I'm
We
like,
had
no, he's not Alabama. Wrong
no,
answer.
no, no. We we had a very tornadic week. Had 3 days last week where we were in the hidey hole with the kiddos, and then are having kind of like once every couple of decades floods right now. So luckily my crew's good, but there are a lot of folks around us that can't say the same. Been kind of a wild week.
Yeah, no, I fled down to Florida just because the weather up in the Midwest has been brutal. And then I don't know if you saw the news. I'm in Louisville next week, and
Yep.
Kentucky just got pummeled with the flooding.
Yep.
Feel for
Yep.
those guys. I have a friend that said he spent I think it was last week, he spent a night in his basement, which those tornadoes were no joke. I spent a night in mine too, so that's fair. All right, well, let's go ahead and dive in. First off, let's start with intros. Who the heck are we, and why should you care? I'll go first, and Andy, I'll have you go next. So my name is Logan Edmonds. I'm the chief security officer and founder of a firm called TTS or TTS Cyber, depending on which of our brandings you're seeing. We do cybersecurity for the SMB and the SME. So we're not big corporate, we're small business focus, people 50, 15, 200, like that's where our focus is, not the 3,000, 5,000. And I like to say, I want to say we've seen it all, but then I know I'm just asking for trouble, Andy. Like, don't say that out loud. But we've seen a lot.
Right. Knock on wood. Yeah.
Through our journeys, we met up with Andy, but I'm based out of Columbus, Ohio, and I love just talking to people about cyber risk, cyber insurance, and how to keep themselves safe in this, it feels like, never getting better world.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm Andy Runyon. I'm our partner risk advisor here at Fifth Wall. We are a cyber insurance and tech errors and emissions insurance specialist wholesaler based out of the Pittsburgh area. As you can tell by accent, I am not in the Pittsburgh area. I'm in Arkansas, and I work with our MSPs and partners nationwide to help them provide them and their clients education around how do we solve this whole puzzle, right? This cybersecurity thing, this insurance thing, those two train tracks seem to be getting closer and closer every year. So how do we come up with best solutions for the end client?
All right. Well, let's dive in because we only got a 30-minute session. We're going to start with a question that I think you and I both know our answers, but I want our audience to ask themselves, which is the very premise of today's presentation. Is cyber insurance even necessary?
Right.
I'm on the yes camp for so many reasons I could sit here for hours and talk about and rant, and I call it my drunken bar rant, but I'm not going to do that to y'all. Andy, obviously you're biased here being the cyber insurance guy, but I would say 100% yes. And our hope is at the end of this presentation today, you guys are going to agree with us on this, but we're going to go through this. So we used to hear this all the time, Andy, on the MSP side. Right. And I know you probably heard it too. I'm so small, right? These hackers, they don't care about me. Like, they want to go after the Fortune 500, the Fortune 100. Why would they care about Joe Schmo who's making $750,000 a year in revenue, right? That's not. I'm such a small fish in the sea. And to be fair to that person, I would say from my perspective, they probably would have been right till about 2018. It was about 2018 I started seeing that shift. Is that line up with what you experienced?
Yes, 2018, and then COVID just absolutely poured gasoline on the fire. So, I mean, very, very applicable to small business. And then AI poured even more gasoline on the fire, right? So, if you, and we can talk about the context of that, but I mean, yes, about 2018, things started shifting. COVID hit, remote work broke out in the small to middle market. That expanded the attack, the blast radius. And then AI and the development of, really good phishing emails and fake invoices and things like that. It is a 1,000% small business issue these days.
I think the thing that kind of brought it home for me, and I'll tell a story and I'll change some details to protect the identities of those involved, is I had a client that was a itty bitty nonprofit, like 3 people on staff, right? And nonprofit, under $500,000 a year. Yep. And raise revenues. Like these guys were 100% that might be ideal definition in my mind of the little guy. And I get a call one day, and it's from the financial person. It was one of the 3 staff, and she's just in tears because cyber criminal had broken into her email, had read all of her bank statements, had figured out, who they were doing business with, who their partners were, and
Mhm.
through a series of social engineering and technical hacking, had stolen
Mhm.
$115,000 that they couldn't get
Yeah.
back because they'd wired it
Yep.
overseas. That was
Yep.
their entire operating budget. And to add on, so we're gonna be talking about that today, about the gaps in
Mhm.
policies.
Mhm.
Spoilers, they had cyber insurance, but because they didn't know what they were looking for, and this is
Mhm.
no fault, this is they're new. Hi, Elizabeth. It's good to be, oh, Elizabeth's here from Spain. Wow. All right, we're going
Nice.
international today.
Oh,
Nice.
I bet I know which Elizabeth that is.
That's yeah, I think I do too. But
I only know one Elizabeth from Spain. Anyway, go ahead.
what I was getting at was is the end goal was they had less than 10% of that claim paid. Less than
Mhm.
10% of that damages
Yep.
was paid by insurance.
Yep.
And it wasn't through claim denial in the sense that, hey, I'm just not going to pay. It was we had the wrong kind of insurance altogether because no one told us how to do it. And so that sets the stage in the little guy. I also want to kind of grasp, we're going to be talking about big money today, right? Big
Mhm.
money. And to give you a sense of how big, LA wildfires. I know it's been a few months, but I still have friends. My brother lives out in LA. People are still absolutely trying to pick themselves up, and
Right.
we're saying right now, insurance last was pegging the estimated loss is around 32.5 billion. When I was looking at this in January, I think that number's gone up to even more. I think it's in the 9-figure range now. When I was looking last time, like it just keeps going up, 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 up. Well, to give you context on this, that's LA, right? That and obviously super tragic, and I get it, it's big money. But look at this, the World Economic Forum, before the current global stuff going on, before
Right.
that all went down, said, hey, we're estimating about 10.5 trillion with a T in damages globally this coming year in 2025 due to cybercrime. And context is everything. 2023, the global economy, about 105 trillion. So if we're using that number as a benchmark, this is 10% off the top.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's essentially 10% tax in many ways.
Yep.
Anything to add to that? Those numbers, like that's a
No,
big
just I
number.
mean, there are a bunch of markers of severity that are showing the trend is going up, right? I mean, that's a great report. We saw a report that was put out by Sophos last year. I mean, I've shared that with you in the past, and I know we've talked about it here before. But I mean, the average loss from a business in the $0 to $10 million, revenue bracket for an all in for a ransomware event, not the payment, right? But the all in loss is roughly 1.2 million, right? And that's in the lowest revenue bracket. So severity's increasing. That number's going up. It's not going to flatten. It's not going to decrease anytime soon, and something that folks need to pay attention to.
Absolutely. And I'm actually seeing a growing prevalence of people actually paying attention to fraud now, too. Don't be wrong, ransomware is
Yep.
bad, but I think
Yep.
people are realizing it doesn't require anything to be hacked or taken. It's just money because fraud is an all-time high. And when money leaves your bank account, a lot of people don't realize this, but the FDIC, the thing that's supposed to insure our bank accounts for $250,000, that doesn't cover fraud. That's where your
Right.
personal cyber liability insurance is
Correct.
going to step in with its fraud prevention to reimburse you for anything. So people are seeing, 6 figures left my bank account. I didn't catch it for the first 24 hours on vacation. I was out of office, whatever. Go to the bank. Hey, give me back my money. We can't. It's gone. Sorry.
Right.
And that's hard. 64% still, as of 2024, our small businesses are not familiar with cyber insurance. Those of you who are maybe in the know and you're attending this call, you're thinking, haven't you not heard about cyber insurance? You'd be surprised. Almost 2/3 of people have not heard of this thing. And the people who have heard of it, this is the other stat that blows our mind, Andy. I got ready to say cybersecurity and Andy and Sandy. Sorry.
It's all good.
48% of people who do get cyber insurance, they wait till after they get hit,
Yeah.
right? Like they
It's
wait
very
until they
common.
have that 6-figure loss and they're like, oh, that hurts so bad. I can never take that again. I'm now going to
Right.
crawl and cobble together the money to have insurance in case it ever happens again. They didn't protect them the first time.
Yep. Yep. No, it's the old analogy of like going to the doctor after you're throwing up blood, right? Like the preventative measures and all of that need to be in place. You need to consider this before the loss. But yes, and these numbers check out with what we see. And in addition to that, I would say the ones that do have cyber insurance, of the ones that come to our desk, right, that do have cyber insurance, at least half of those have insurance that is either substandard or doesn't align with their risk, right? So when you look at that, take all the people that don't have it, then you look at the people that do have it, and they're either underinsured or improperly insured. There's still a lot of folks out there in our economy that are would be left holding the bag in the event of a cyber attack.
I think if you take nothing else in this presentation, that's 100% we're getting at. I'm not telling people to go at this and try to prevent this 100%. I don't believe this is 100% preventable. I think this is a risk conversation. I'm an entrepreneur. I've started my own business. I get it, right? And it's risk versus reward. In my mind, this risk is still too high because there's not enough awareness, and a lot of businesses aren't balancing at that appropriate level, right? They think they've got coverage. They think they've done enough because they don't understand the implications. For example, I had the slide up earlier. In 2023, we saw a 5% uptick, right? In just 1 year, it went up from about 48% of small businesses getting hit to closer to 53% of small businesses seeing some kind of cyber attack. I'm getting a signal notification. Let me know if I drop at any point. Okay, Andy?
Yeah, no, you're good. I'll let you know.
All right. So so what do you do, right? What do you do? So first off, a lot of people also too have only heard about this because I'm seeing a rise of this. I want you to talk more about this. More and more industries are trying to figure out how to regulate, whether private or governmental, right? Like they're trying to figure out how to regulate this and they don't know where to start. So the natural place they start is let's just farm this out for the moment to the insurance industry. They'll figure it out, right?
Mhm.
We just mandate is for our first pass, you got to carry some kind of cyber insurance. I'm seeing a huge uptick in that. Is that true from your case? Is the person actually selling the policies?
Massive. And it's funny because I was on stage with a CISA employee down here in the South in like 21 or 22, probably 4 years ago. And he, prophesied then. He was like, if you fast forward to 2024, 2025, what I think we're going to see is a lot of third parties, especially those that deal with the government, are going to start requiring this contractually, right? And he was like, I can't really speak to the amount, but he said, and what we saw at the time in 21, 22, almost nobody was mandating it. The ones that did said 1 million, right? And what we're seeing now is financial institutions, private
Mhm.
equity, government, just some straight up just, hey, you provide our your logistics company gets our tires here, we need to know that you have cyber insurance. I mean, like, just even
Yeah,
just base
you're going to
third
be
party
around.
private firms, right?
Yeah.
So, and then on top of that, not only are they starting to require it, but now we're starting to see, I had MSP come to my desk the other day that was like, man, hey, I've onboarded this new client. I've got to have $5 million at E&O if I want the customer, So not only are they requiring it, but the number of which the aggregate limit of the policy is increasing as well.
So this is, I will say this, we are going to stay far away from the current politics situation on this call. It's not a politics call, but what I find is interesting,
Sure.
and in the United States especially, is we have an administration that traditionally would be viewed as less regulation. And that's been true in a lot of cases, except in cyber, is what we're seeing, especially in the defense contractor space. This is
Yep.
credit for Jacob Horn, posts great stuff. Shout out to him. I've been following him as a silent lurker for a while. But they've gone, basically, they view it as a national security risk. Hey, you've got to protect our supply chain. And supply chain is not just the person who delivers the widgets, it's the people who provide the financing, the insurance, the healthcare. Like, it's the thing that makes our country go, wee. If that stops in any significant way, we're in a really bad spot. And we're seeing that starting to snowball both in the private sector, like you mentioned, even just private partners realizing, man, if my critical vendor can't deliver my widget to me, within a couple weeks, my business stops too. So I need to make sure that if they get hit, the lights stay on. That's a
Yep.
big deal. Some of the areas I'm seeing, like you mentioned, top of the line is a lot of vendor and supplier agreements. If you have a managed service provider, a lot of times they're saying, hey, to work with us, you got to have cyber, because at the end of the day, nothing's 100%. Client service agreements, partnership agreements, cloud and SaaS agreements are putting them in place. I'm seeing government contracts, healthcare agreements, even franchise agreements. I'm seeing for be a franchisee to go open, a nursing home or a nursing care franchise. You now got to carry $1 million in cyber, right?
And I'll tell you the interesting thing there, what we've seen, and this is, hey, buyer beware, by the way. I'm an entrepreneur. I decide that I want to buy into the hotel space and I want to go get me 4 or 5 locations with, Marriott or whoever, right? Well, the franchise right, they say, hey, we need you to purchase cyber insurance, right? We've gotten to evaluate a couple of those. And some of those hotel chains will say, hey, we've got this product and you have to buy into that. And then when you read into the fine print, you know what coverage is there? Liability, notification, the stuff that protects the entity. You know what's not there? Crime, reputational harm, first party stuff that protects the franchisee. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's really interesting again. And this is where that specialist consultation comes in. I mean, we've had to sit there and tell a guy who owned, 5 or 6 locations that basically, like, your franchise forced you to buy a product out of your pocket that protects them, but really doesn't protect you at all.
I've seen that so many times. I've seen insurance premiums that limits that are geared towards things that are just realistically never going are very unlikely to happen to the underwritten, whereas the stuff that is more likely, like fraud, we'll get into that in a little bit, has just
Sublimited.
free little sublimits, and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But
Or excluded. Yes. Yeah.
excluded. Let's back up. So some of our audience might remember in ye yonder past of about 7 years ago. That does feel like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? Oh my gosh. You could go down to your local agent and at your, I mean, I even remember doing this. I lived in a small town at the time, went down to the local agent's office, said, hey, I need cyber. Got $1 million policy. Didn't really have a whole lot of language in it. Just said, you got coverage for data breach and a bunch of other stuff.
Yep.
Paid $600 and filled out a small form, and Bob's your uncle, right? Tell me, is that how it works nowadays?
Yeah. So it's been an interesting chain. We joke all the time. We say that cyber years are like dog years, right? Like 1 equals 7, because so much has changed over the last really 5 years. If you go back to 2019, 2020, the average small business could get a cyber insurance policy for $1 million through their local agent with next to no underwriting. Name, address, what's your revenue, how many employees, have you had a loss in the last couple of years, and are you in these few industries? And they could get that for usually less than $1,000, for sure less than $2,000, right? Well, as we move forward, right, and like we said, COVID, AI, a bunch of different things started happening. The insurers, right, the carriers lost a lot of money because they didn't underwrite well. They took on a lot of really, really poor risk. They took on a lot of clients that over the COVID years, right, they lost a ton of money. And as those loss ratios increased, the carriers, if you're bleeding money, what do? You raise premium, you cut or you raise deductibles, you cut coverage, right?
You can't
And
see
there
it
was,
I put this little bar graph up, and you can kind of see 2019. That's how much we lost, and all of a sudden, 2020 and 2021 happened, and it almost doubled. And it's like, whoa!
And then you see market regulation over there in 2022 and 2023. And what did that market regulation look like? Like, if you're just looking at the bar graphs and like, okay, it was really bad for a couple of years, what happened there to get it back to normal? Is cyber insurance started underwriting, right? Like, they started asking more questions about controls. And there was more of an understanding, not a perfect understanding, but more of an understanding that, hey, if XYZ controls are in place for a small business, that makes them a better risk than if they aren't.
I mean, yeah, and also the industry grew. So that's fair to mention too. Cyber started handling because it became very apparent. If you're in the insurance space, cyber, I think, is the fastest growing line of professional insurance right now by far and large. And you can see the data bears out. In 2020, it was about $4 billion in premium. Last year, it was closer to $7 billion in premium. Right, it's almost double the amount of money flowing in on years. But loss ratios compared to 2020 dropped 42% because they started realizing, hey, we can't just write blank checks. We actually have to be very clear about what kind of risk we take on versus what we won't. And also, it's clearer in our policies, hey, this is the kind of stuff we'll actually pay for. Just because we've given you insurance doesn't mean you get a blank check for whatever you want. Which that's what I'd say more mature insurance does for everywhere. Like, right, my E&O doesn't give me a blank check for everything. My director's insurance doesn't give me a blank check for everything. My car insurance doesn't give me a blank.
I was about to say, as a 43-year-old, 5'10" white male, I can't go get life insurance and just go smoke meth and go do a pack of cigarettes a day and drink every night, right? Like, those things would invalidate my insurance. So that's just the process of buying insurance, right?
It is. And you got to understand, guys, insurance, this is not new. It's just the timeline was new, I think. That's the thing that shocked people, right? Standards do change over time. And the insurance industry determines those standards. And this is the part I think a lot of people used to fight a lot harder against. Now they're coming around to realizing, oh, gosh, it's not going to go back. You comply with the standards or you just don't get coverage, right? Like, if I go and get a bunch of DUIs, it is the carrier's right to say, hey, no, we're not insuring you anymore. Sorry, go find somebody else, right? I know that's happened to somebody I know, actually, that's exactly happened. He had to go find somebody else and turns out not a lot of people want to take that risk. You have to comply with the standards. And so what we're going to go through next here is kind of some of the standards that are talked about. But before we do that, we do need to bring up this. This is something that gets a lot of people in trouble.
Yep.
And Andy, I want you to talk more about this. I have so many people that say, yes, I have a business policy. It's really comprehensive. I'm sure I've got cyber in there somewhere. What's your reaction to that?
I'll give you the worst, I guess I was going to say most cataclysmic, worst example I've seen. We consulted a client that said, yeah, we have cyber, we're good. They sent it to their MSP forwarded it to us for review, right? The cyber that was in the policy, because I literally would think what they did is they pulled up the PDF and they typed in the word cyber and they hit enter and they saw it on the policy, right? It was an exclusion. They literally had an exclusion on the policy that said, we're not going to cover anything cyber, but in their brain, because they didn't spend the time to read what was going on, right? They had cyber on their policy. But yes, the vast majority of business owner level BOP add-on, bolt-on, endorsements, whatever, they're either in the aggregate and not enough to cover your average loss. If you remember, we said back before the average ransomware event was 1.2 million. A lot of those in the aggregate are going to sit at 50, 100, 250, 500K, right? And then on top of that, when you get into the caveats, right? Invoice manipulation, reputational harm, some of those things that comprehensive cyber insurance covers, a lot of those add-ons don't cover those things as well.
We can talk about this because this is public news now, because they had to go public about it. There is a small municipality agency out here in the Central Ohio region. It's a city right next to Columbus called Granville, and they had basically it was like a blend of a government agency and a nonprofit that handled the parks department. They called it the Granville Recreation District. That got them the exact same thing. They thought they had a good policy. There were only 7 people, operating budget of like $1 million and change per year, had $1 million policy for cyber, right? Well, the problem was a hacker broke in, stole over $750,000, which if you go look up the story, it's absolutely insane how it happens. They went to go file their coverage and they realized, no, we only have $250,000 for fraud. And actually 3 years ago, that probably would have been a decent policy. That's how fast this changes. Right now, it's no, you really need to have closer to $1 million for this kind of stuff if you can get it. If not, at least half.
And I'll be 100% honest with you. Let's call a spade here. A $250K for fraud is pretty standard on cyber insurance, right? Like that's a standard limit. So you need to sit down and have a risk management discussion, right? Like, do we have more of a crime exposure than what our coverage gives us, right? Okay, we need to go buy an additional $1 million in crime and tack that on. And it's not an umbrella, but like an umbrella, right? Like we have this underlying 250 and we need an extra $1 million to cover our risk, right? If I'm a manufacturer and I have a ton of revenue at stake, on whether or not the wheels keep turning or not, right? I need to make sure that my business income coverage, if I'm a $40 million manufacturer, I don't need 100K of business income, right? I need to sit there and do the napkin math and go, okay, at 40 million, if I was down for the average time and it was 15 days and I couldn't produce and sell the thing for 15 days, roughly what does that look like? I need to cover that loss, right?
Yeah, I think this is the biggest thing too, back to that original I'm so small kind of a thing, right? Like people have never had this conversation ever in their existence of their business because they never had to worry about a foreign government taking it. In this case, like a lot of foreign governments are getting on this because they realize it's a free cash grab. A foreign government is taking interest in a 10-person business because they know they can run off with $500,000 after being laundered as 250K USD, dollars versus their local currency. That's a nice little add-on if you do that at scale to whatever black budget they want, whatever kind of North Korea. I'll pick on them because they're pretty much famous for doing this. They fund half their missile program by stealing.
I was about to say, so they can launch another missile that fails into the
ocean, right? Because they know the way to get money in the country. And so you as a small business now are put in a precarious position where it's like you're forced to ask, do you have money? If so, I hate to tell you this, you've gotten the interest of some people who have way more capabilities than you could ever imagine. And you have an honest conversation about worst case scenarios and how you mitigate that. And that's difficult for, especially in the manufacturing space where they're like, what, how, why?
Right.
Well, so top reasons we see claims denied. I think this is worth talking about because claims denial is sort of always the specter of insurance, right? Everybody gets up in arms about claims denial. And there's some legit reasons, but the top reasons we see by far is you don't have enough insurance, first off. First off, you dramatically underestimated the amount of risk that you had, and you bought a policy. Like I mentioned, the city of Granville. They had a policy that didn't adequately cover their risk. That's reason number one. It's not so much a claim denial, more of a, hey, you maxed out the policy. Sorry, not sorry. Two, you went off road. Ransomware is bad for this. I know some people are like, oh, I got ransomware, right? I'm just going to call the local computer shop down the street and they'll come out here and wipe all my computers and reinstall Windows, and it'll take a couple days, but it's not that big of a deal. No, don't work that way. I'll let you talk about this because I have a whole rant, but I actually think that you should talk about this.
From an insurance standpoint, number one, right? Like get the policy in place first, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're listening to this and you're going, well, Logan, I don't know what the road looks like. How do I stay on the road? I mean, you're telling me I don't need to go off road. Like, how do I even know where the road is, right? Call your insurance carrier, right? Like, get the policy in place. There's a number and an email attached to that says claims hotline, right? Pick up the phone, call that number and say, hey, I'm Andy at XYZ Manufacturing, and we just purchased our first cyber insurance policy through Tokyo Marine. Wanted to have a conversation with you guys about what our expectations are in the event of a ransomware event, if we wire money, yada, yada, and how do we stay compliant? How do we file a claim? What does our legal look like? What does forensics look like? Can we talk to those guys in advance, right? If we can do that on the front end, if we can plan ahead with the insurance carrier, the likelihood of you going outside the lines or stepping out of bounds is far, far less.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. Like, check with your carrier before you start incurring costs in a cyber event. Typically, my order of operations, I'd recommend anyone in IR is, hey, first dust out the IR plan. Hopefully you have one, an incident response plan. Two, call your attorney, kind of get them involved, let them know what's going on, because this is going to have legal ramifications one way or another. And maybe, hopefully they're minor, maybe they're major, but they need to be in the loop. Three, call your carrier and say, hey, I might have something going on here. I need some support. What would you advise me to do in XYZ? And sometimes they won't advise if they don't think it's an actual event, and they'll say, call us back if anything actually materializes. But most of the time, they're going to give you some practical advice in my experience of, okay, don't wipe the computers. Let us go ahead and start this process of making a claim. The third option here too, and this is the one I'm going to talk about with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. You fell out of compliance, which means basically you attested to something that you had. You said you had MFA. You said you had EDR. You said you had vulnerability management. You said you had these security controls that were supposed to mitigate your risk, but you didn't have them. That does still happen, right? Like, that does still happen to an extent. And we can talk about the extreme gross versions of it, but we're going to talk a little bit about diligence on this next slide. Specifically, hey, the insurer, like anything, when you fill out an insurance application, it's just that, right? It's a warranty. It's them, you saying, this is how I am. This is the kind of risk that you're underwriting. If they come in, and they will come in if you make a claim, and they're going to take a look at what's going on and investigate, make their own investigation. And they say, what we see in the actual environment does not line up, just completely askew from what you tested on the paperwork.
Right.
That is either A, at least going to hold up your claims process, from my experience, or B, puts you in jeopardy of getting a full claim payout because it's just so out of whack. Now, and I mean that, let me go to my next slide here and kind of present that. Let's talk about this. This is probably the most famous story. I don't like using it without the right context because people used it to fearmonger the cyber insurance world for a while. But it is a good example of how gross negligence, right? The term gross negligence can really get you in trouble. ICS, you probably know the story like the back of your hand at this point. You want to take 2 minutes here and go through it real quick?
Basically, what you had is you had an insured, right, that stated that they had multi-factor authentication. Now, here I'm actually going to throw the insurance industry under the bus here a little bit. Remember how we said they weren't underwriting well, and they weren't underwriting at all, right? Well, when they started asking these questions about controls, the MFA question was asked in a binary way. Do you have it? Yes or no, right? And in this scenario, the insured said that yes, that they did have MFA, right? Well, they have a loss. Forensic shows up from insurance. It is found that there was no MFA, right? Mm-hmm. And that now we start getting into, okay, we're going to deny a claim. And that's, I mean, listen, when this stuff happens, let's talk about how it's changed since ICS. Okay. Because, and I appreciate you bringing this up. It is a bit of a boogeyman in a way, right? It's a story that happened, but there are some small things that have happened that have made a huge amount of difference, right? Number one, the questions are being asked in a better way now, right? We
Yes.
understand,
We see
like,
that.
for example, uh, you know, we've got a school district here in Northeast Arkansas that went through this same thing, right? And it was like, hey, do you have MFA? Yes or no? And they were like, well, the staff does, and the IT guys do, and our administration does, and the support staff does, but the kids don't, and they have emails. So what do we put? We put no, right? Their premium doubles, right? So we're trying to walk away from that binary yes, no, and we're getting into where is MFA? Do you have MFA deployed here? Do you have it, is it on emails? Is it on backups? Is it on remote network login? What about third-party apps, right? And we're trying to paint now, at least at Fifth Wall we are. There's still people that ask the binary yes, no. We're trying to paint a better picture of where is MFA located, right?
I've actually
So
gotten some carriers to accept just, hey, here's our security policy and like all this
there you
how
go.
we do that. Instead of the application, we'll just staple it to the back and say reference this, and they'll take it sometimes. Not all the time,
There you go.
but sometimes they go, cool, okay, I mean, that's good enough for us.
Yep. Now, and here's the other part of that, and I know we're limited on time, but I do want to mention this, like gross misattestation, right? Like,
Mhm.
best case scenario, you said something you weren't really sure about, right? Your claim's probably going to get paid out. You may get canceled. You may have to go to another carrier, but you're
Your
probably going to get
premium's going
paid
to
out.
triple for the next carrier because they're
Yeah,
going to see that
you're
and go,
you're
okay,
you'll
yeah.
get paid out. Your premium's going to go up. You may get dropped. Gross misattestation. Oh yeah, we have MFA, and they show up and there's not a stitch, and there hasn't been, the MSP gets drugged in and go, hey, they've denied MFA for 3 years now, right?
Yep.
That can get a claim denied, right? So understand there are different levels of misattestation. If you say that you have EDR and it's on 90% of your flat platform, but you didn't realize that there were a couple of endpoints that weren't covered by that, are you going to get denied? Maybe not, probably not. But if it is gross misattestation, then yes, you can get denied and
So
cancel both.
Elizabeth Perry asked a question, which is insurance getting more specific about the kinds of MFA? So I
Right.
know exactly with this. Yes, John, the recording will be sent out after the fact. Sorry, I'm going to answer that question right there. But back to Elizabeth's question. Are they getting more
Yes.
concerned about what kind of MFA is being used? And I know why she is. She's a little biased, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. No, sorry. Yeah. No. Let's dive into this. No, this is a good conversation. Let's just talk. I mean, let's address MFA and controls in general, right? So on MFA, is there a push towards more better controls, right?
Sure.
More efficacious controls in the market? Yes, absolutely, there is. We definitely have the ability now to go in and with certain carriers and say, hey, we have this solution, whether it is a certain MDR or a certain MFA, and like what Elizabeth's getting at is, do we have the old MFA that's just, hey, I send you a text and I verify, or do we have like a passwordless phishing resistant MFA, right? That will do like facial scanning, or if it has like QR codes and things like that, right? Those type of solutions are more secure. Yes, shameless bias. I love it. Yes, you can. If you're with a savvy broker, right? If you're with a broker that knows or an agent that knows cyber, they can take the investment in that control and try to leverage it out in the market, right, as being superior. So we are seeing kind of a shift in general. Um, is it large enough that we can just say, hey, I use this vendor with somebody that doesn't know what they're doing and it gives us financial benefit? Not at this point. What I will say is we are starting to see things, cyber insurance underwriting, start to align more with things like NIST,
Mhm.
CMMC
Well,
compliance. So as those things fall, I think insurance a couple years behind.
yeah, and that's fair, right? Like in my mind, insurance is sort of the bare minimum, right? And it's
Hmm.
compliance check mark. And don't get me wrong, it's a good place to start the conversation because it prompts the leadership of any company to go and say, okay, if we can't get insured without having XYZ, I guess we got to do it, right? It's a great point to
Right.
start the conversation. But a lot of the controls I'm seeing, I've listed up here that more often now are coming up is stuff like as was talking about, right? They're getting a little more granular. I'm starting to see the insurance industry catching up on vulnerability management, for example, which is kind of cool because that is the bane of my existence. About 90% of all cyber attacks start with phishing. The other 10 is vulnerabilities are the bane of my existence. But so we're
Right.
seeing firewalls, MFA. Hey, do you have something on your email to reduce the amount of phishing that your staff
Right.
is being subjected to? They're seeing, hey, do you have a plan? Right? Like, do you have a plan to run your business? Because claims don't get paid instantaneously. And then while you're waiting for the claim and us to do our thing, can you get your business up and running so we're not paying that business interruption beyond a certain amount,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Backups. are you actually putting all your data in a separate location than wherever it is in the cloud? Because if that data were ever impacted and you come back to us and say, well, I can't run my business without that data, we want to be able to point to that and say, well, you said you had a backup, go get the backup, right? I mean, these are reasonable things. And back to your point there, we're seeing more of adoption towards NIST, but I'm happy even see, I'm going to be nerd out here a second, CIS controls. Like these are CIS controls in a lot of ways. And I'm like, this is great. This is a great place to start. Now, what I do, back to your point, right, of people gross negligence, I want to spend just a little more. I know we're a little over time, but this is important.
That's right. Yeah.
I see a lot of small businesses just saying, I have to get the insurance. I'll check whatever I need to check. I'll do whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
Just to get the insurance, so my vendors stop breathing on it, because secretly still believe the whole I'm too small. This is just not reasonable. I'm just doing this because to get the pressure off. Don't be like that. I'm being serious. That's what we think of gross negligence. If you are willfully going through checking yes to those things and knowing full well consciously you either don't have this, or at best you might have some of this and not all of this, that's where you're gonna get in trouble. Not the I think I have everything, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure I have this. I'm asking questions, right? There's a difference between an honest mistake and gross negligence. That's what I mean by gross negligence.
And listen, I'll tell you from personal experience, there's an IT lead at a hospital in Northern Arkansas that does not have a job anymore because of gross negligence, right? Like they went in on their application and just said, yes, 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 right? Had a claim wasn't paid out because there was gross negligence there. And they went back and were like, hey, who filled this out? Right. And they went, that guy did. And they're like, okay, see ya. Like this is your job, and you had privy to inside information here, and you misstated on multiple things on this application. It's like, well, I was trying to save us money on our premium. Okay, and that's not work here anymore.
I see that a lot of well-meaning tech people going in trying to make business decisions because they're afraid to talk to the leadership of the company about some of the costs that this is going to incur. But the honest truth is, this is a cost of doing business in a lot of ways. It's becoming more and more. You need to have a seat at the table and lead the charge, because a lot of executives at like a hospital, right? They might not be aware this is a thing until after they need the claim money. They're aware now, I'm sure now they have a great security program at that hospital. But if you're in a position where you're working as the IT person, or I see a lot of CTOs take this role, they have enough wherewithal to like know exactly what's going on in the market, but they're also like, I don't know how to bring this up to the CEO, saying we probably need to do more stuff and all that things. You need to bring it up. You need to be the one saying, not I told you so, but I'm pointing towards this, because you don't want to be the IT guy who said, I just didn't, it was uncomfortable. I didn't want to talk about it. I thought it'd save us some money. I just did it. Back to this then. So where do you start? This is a good opportunity. So we have two very, very special offers today. The first and foremost is a simple yes/no checklist that tells you whether or not you are in a place to have some of the controls that cyber insurance is almost certainly going to ask you. It takes about 8 minutes. It's free. It's online. Scan this QR code or go to ttscyber.net. Our second is our friend Andy Runyon and his team at Fifth Wall Solutions are doing cyber insurance policy reviews. So what does that mean? Two things. Well, one, if you don't have a policy, just reach out to me. I'll get you hooked up with Andy and his team. We can get that taken care of. But two, if you got a policy and you've got questions about if there's any of these gaps we're talking about, you and your team of Wilson and Will and those guys, I know, are more than happy to take a look at existing policies and just have a conversation with people. And one of the things I always appreciate about you, Andy, is in my opinion, in my experience, it's a very non-salesy, non-judgmental mind away. Hey, see, you got this policy, so you got another 8 months on it. You might want to go back to the carrier because you don't have coverage in this area. And here's why you want it. That's how I see these conversations going. That line up.
And 100%. And what I'll tell you, guys, for folks that are on the call or that are watching this in the recording, we're not going to create fires where there are none. If your agent has placed a policy and for you, and it is with a solid carrier with the right amount of limit that matches your exposure, and you got a good deductible and all the coverage, we'll say, go be blessed. And by the way, we would love to work with your agent, right? Like if your agent is that cyber savvy, they need to get appointed with Fifth Wall because we're a wholesaler and we can work in tandem with them, right? So if there's nothing that
I know for a fact we have a couple agencies in the audience. Hint, hint.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, hey, we're a wholesaler, baby. If you know what you're doing with cyber, come on with us and let's talk points a little bit, right? Like we can do some things with agencies. But if you're in a scenario where it does need to be altered or changed, right? If it doesn't match the exposure, if it's missing coverages, or maybe maybe you're with an agent that has limited market access. Like they don't know how to get out to a coalition or an at-bay or somebody like that, and they've just got you on like a State Farm business owner policy or something like that. We can help with that as well.
Awesome. Well, we're 10 minutes over time, and I try to respect everyone. Thank you for those of you who've hung out with us the extra 10 minutes. Randy, any final parting thought? Or Randy, man, I am struggling today with your name. And
Sandy, Randy, and
I was on the beach this morning, and no shame. This is sort of a workcation for me. I'm in the sun. So, Andy, any final thoughts or parting words of wisdom you want to offer?
No, man, I always appreciate the ability to get on here and talk shop with you guys. And just anybody that's out there that has questions on this here, this is my big thing. Don't let embarrassment, right? Like there are so many people in positions, CFOs, IT leads, owners of business, that they come to cyber and they're like, man, I should know this, but I don't. And I don't want to say that I don't know it. And like, that is a really, really dangerous position to be in. Be humble, show up for the free 30-minute meeting and ask questions, right? I get MSPs nationwide that after a little bit of massaging, they go, yeah, actually we've had E&O for 5 years. We have no idea. We have no idea what's on this. Will you please look at it? Right. Bring that humility. We're not going to beat you with a whip. We're not going to tongue lash you, like ask the question.
Snap. All right. You got your first agency that wants to connect to you, my friend. I'll put that up there. We'll get you hooked up with Andy, John. All right, guys. My name is Logan Edmonds. I'm Chief Security Officer and founder of TTS. Andy, Fifth Wall Solutions. Thank you for coming on, man. I always have a blast. If you guys have any questions, you can check out our free cyber review at ttscyber.net. Or you can just come hang out with us. My LinkedIn profile, TTS Cyber's got a phone number. Get a hold of us. We can help you out. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.